of the high buildings or the tall buildings where you don't get warming down into the canyons, where the street side, where the pedestrian level is. So you had cooler mornings, but then during the evening and into the night, quite some started effects, which kept the place really nice and warm.
And in the west, we all know the temperatures are always hotter in the west, but again, there's some big variation in west Sydney. You've got an example in the Parramatta line of area.
Yes, when we studied Parramatta, it was really interesting to see how big the difference is. We're talking about 12, 13 kilometers only, and while it was at West Street, where the big hospital is, and at Toongabbie, lots of residents there,
In
there was
400 meters,
45,
turn right
46,
onto Cattai
47
Road.
degrees. We were in the mid to lower 30s when we got to Wentworth Point and Sydney Olympic Park, with probably the help of the Parramatta River. Again, large water body. It could probably also have a lot of vegetation cooling combined with the sea breeze or the river breeze that would come off that kind of thermal mass or body of water. So really interesting, because when we advise people, they watch the weather show in the evening, ABC or any other program, and the data that is drawn there into those predictions when you see the forecast for Sydney for the next days, that is not microclimate. So when we say tomorrow is a day of 37 degrees, well, that's
Take the next
probably
right onto
based
Cattai
on
Road.
some much larger observations, synoptic observations, when we now know that at the microclimate level, you could be easily on a 37-degree day sit in 43, 44, 45 degree heat, depending on where you are in Sydney. And there's no warning
Continue
for
on
that.
Cattai Road
That
for 1.5
information doesn't reach the
kilometers.
population because we don't have such fine-grained networks of weather stations that would give us that information.
Yeah, I know growing up in South Leverton, you'd always be waiting for the southerly bus to be for anything. You might have cool you down. I was listening to 702 ABC Radio Sydney Drive with Ms. Sebastian Salt. She's a professor for urban management and planning at Western Sydney University, and we're chatting about the microclimate of Sydney. What can cities do to cool things down for business?
And that's where it's interesting to see, like this announcement of today's report, this very high-level stuff, which is great to have in some way, but it doesn't really help us if you own a house and you want to do something to keep you cool, or even save electricity when it's hot. It doesn't help you anything. So we really need to come up with very, very, we call them hyper-local solutions. So you need to look into what kind of paving and what kind of color of paving do I have around my house? Did I actually paint my driveway black? I shouldn't have done that. What can I do to introduce more pervious surfaces, have more plants shade the walls of my house? Things like